And what we know is it all starts with credibility. Credibility, saying that that person has enough trust in you that they do want to meet with you. In fact, what we know is from our work together is that what they're probably saying in their mind is, why would I want to even meet with this person? As you know, they have a flood of people that are just trying to see them and get in to be with them and sell them something. So what differentiates the general cable person from everybody else that is in there with them? What we do know is this: we are armed to speak with them about that very question they have in their mind. Why would I want to meet with you or anyone from your organization? We know that the core issue is credibility and trust. The way we look at it is we know what the factors of credibility are. We know that there's 4 key things that we can measure, and when we look at each one of those factors, we can take that against our own performance and say what it is that I can do differently or better. Let me go through these 4 factors. Let's start with the factor of propriety. In the minds of the customer, what propriety answers is this: do I look like, act, talk, walk, even smell like someone they want to do business with? Before you even open up your mouth, Ryan, they're sizing you up and saying, yeah, looks like somebody I'd want to do business with, or at least meet with, or not. The second factor has to do with competence. In the minds of the customers, answering the question, Larry, what do you bring? What do you know about my business and my situation that would tell me you're worth spending the time with? They're asking that. And what we need to do to bring light to that is speak to our competency. Even new RSMs can leverage their background and the very reason why they were hired by General Cable to come out here and work with our esteemed customers. So competence is a key factor. The third one, and by the way, these are an escalating importance, is the one around commonality. In the minds of the customer, what this does, Matt, is answer the question, where do we go back? What's our bond that would make me want to spend time with you versus anybody else? And we know that there are 2 types of bonds we could be building. We could be building the ones that have to do with the back wheel, the technical things that, whether it's associations we belong to together, or maybe even to the more personal front wheel credibility factors, such as where do we live? Same community. What values do we share? Did we go to the same school? Do our kids play on the same ball field? Those things start to say, I want to do business with this person. And finally, the last one, and the most important one, is the factor of intent. This one answers the question in the minds of the customer, are you here for your reasons, or are you here for mine? We can demonstrate within the first few minutes that we're meeting with someone whether or not we're really there just to make a sale today, or whether we're here to solve their problems and help them achieve their objectives. It follows the adage that we believe is the golden rule, one of the golden rules of selling, and that is that our success can only follow their success. The 4 factors of credibility. Here at General Cable, what we know is there are 2 key skills that we have learned that will help us bridge that gap with that prospective customer. They are the skills of PPP and Banduffy, and they answer the questions of how do we establish credibility and how do we express our intent. Let's start with the first one, which is PPP. This has become a favorite. When I talk to Brian and I talk about how we open any meeting, not just out there with a customer, but even inside our organization, it starts with a PPP. It answers 3 questions. Why are we meeting, which is purpose? What are we going to do during this meeting, which is process? And what's in it for us, both you and myself, when we do that, and that's payoff. PPP answers that question. And that in itself starts to get them to start to sit up a little taller. When they hear the word purpose, they say, oh, you have purpose. I better pay attention to this. They actually do start to pay attention. And so what we want to do is make sure that our PPPs are crisp. We have had significant success here with all of General Cable in the words of using PPP. And what we would say is it gets the whole tone of the meeting to take on a whole new perspective. Now, the second skill that we've learned that we do pretty well with here at General Cable is the one called Ben Duffy. Anybody remember Ben Duffy? Yeah, we remember Ben because he's the one that taught us how to demonstrate true empathy with the customer. Empathy means I care enough to have prepared and to have thought about what might be in your mind. So Ben Duffy is used in this way. We would say, Larry, good to be with you today. You know, in thinking about getting together with you today, if I were you, I would be wondering, and then I would mention some questions that I think Larry might have in his head about why are we meeting, what are we going to do, why is General Cable going to be any different than anybody else that I buy cable from? All those questions are in the minds of that customer. The only thing is, they're not asking you, but they do need to be answered. That's where we use Ben Duffy. Those are the two skills of credibility and empathy that we use, and we're doing very well with those. Let's be clear on what they are and what they're not. They are not about how I get into talking about my product. They are not about the questions that I want to be asking them. It's the questions they have for us. And I know that we have, when we're clear and crisp, and we've rehearsed this PPP before we ever go in there, that we are sharper, and they do pay more attention to what we are going to say next. That's what PPP and Ben Duffy do for us. Now, the third factor that we need to be paying attention to when it comes to credibility is something that we all enjoyed when we were in sales form, and that is social styles and versatility. Social styles is all about their behavioral preferences for functioning, for operating, for doing business, and for having fun. And the better we are at identifying, first of all, what their social style is, and secondly, how we flex to it, the better that meeting also goes. So let's think about that. When we think about social styles, we have people that are more tell assertive and people that are ask assertive. We have people that are primarily task focused, and then there was people that are more people focused first. Not that they're exclusive one to the other, that's just their personal preference, the way they like to operate. And so when we ask ourselves, what style do I think they are? We're not saying, are they expressive, are they analytical, or are they driver? No, we're not asking that question. What we're asking is, are they more tell or ask assertive against that whole audience of everybody else I know? And once we get that answer, whether tell or ask, we got the field down to 50%. And then we ask the second question, are they more task-focused first or people-focused? And if we can narrow that down, now we have the quadrant they're in. And then I can think back to what quadrant was I in when I learned about social styles, and then all of a sudden we start to flex to their style. If they're more tell and we're more ask, we have to become more tell. Most often here, General Cable folks are more tell than ask, and so we have to be very cognizant of those that we're meeting that are more ask, more the amiable style or the analytical style. And then again, we flex by becoming more ask. And if they are the analytical, we know that they want to get to business first. They want to know how you're doing and everything. They care about you as human beings. They just want to get the business taken care of first. And we need to be respectful of that. So we flex that way as well. So when it comes to establishing credibility instantaneously with our new prospects or with our existing customers and taking that to another level, or maybe our existing customer brings a new player in to the room, maybe an executive, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, we need to be thinking about what are those factors that I know help us set the tone for the meeting in a credible way. We talked about PPP and Ben Duffy, and we talked about social styles. So I'd like to relate this to a little story that I just had happen to me recently. I was working with a client who was trying to have a meeting with an executive in one of their key clients, and they were having difficulty to get that meeting. So I just simply asked him a question. I said, Rod, what do you believe their social style is? And as soon as I asked the question, the tension went down a little. And it's almost like one of those, I should have had a V8 moment. And he said, it's interesting you ask that, because I've been so focused on my own social style that I forgot that his is the one that's important here. And so once we started figuring that out, the difficulty of the exercise went away. And by the way, so did Rod's difficulty with getting that appointment. And it went very well when he did. So, as we leave this topic about credibility, what I'd like to encourage you to do is to go out there and start playing the game of trying to recognize anybody and everybody you meet with, what is their social styles? That gets you to understand that it's about them. And then how do I quickly flex to that style? And just watch how quickly they reciprocate. That's the first thing I'll ask you to do. The second thing I'd like you to do is start out every meeting you have with a PPP, with a purpose, process, and payoff. As I told you, during my 25th anniversary of my business, they did a roast of me. And one of the roasters went up there and says, we've seen Boland on a retreat. He even starts his confession with, not bless me, Father, for I have sinned, but the purpose of this meeting together, Father. And so use a PPP in every way you can. And third, make sure that we are always, always, always trying to become their trusted advisor. What is a trusted advisor? A trusted advisor is a strategic resource to them that brings things that they can't get inside their organization or anywhere else outside of that organization. It is someone that is called to the table when they have a problem. You are the consummate trusted advisor as the General Cable RSM.